We agreed that after completing this stage, we would hold the third round of negotiations. Overall, we are ready for this.
Здравствуйте, РИА Новости. Если можно, у меня по другой теме вопрос, но тоже очень важный.
Hello, RIA Novosti. If I may, I have a question on a different but also very important topic. You mentioned that recent bilateral contacts touched on the Ukrainian issue.
Украинского урегулирования, в частности, когда состоится третий раунд переговоров между...
Could you tell us how the Ukrainian settlement process is progressing, particularly when the third round of negotiations between Russia and Ukraine will take place, given that 2 rounds have already occurred in Istanbul? It's also known that the parties exchanged draft memoranda on the settlement. How do you assess Kyiv's draft? Was there any reaction from Kyiv to Russia's draft memorandum?
Что касается меморандумов, то, как и ожидалось, ничего неожиданного.
Regarding the memoranda, as expected, nothing unexpected happened. I won't tell you anything unexpected either. These are 2 completely opposite memoranda, but negotiations are organized and conducted precisely to find ways to converge.
Ну, а то, что они были прямо противоположными, мне кажется, здесь удивительного тоже ничего нет. Детализировать я бы не хотел, потому что...
That they are directly opposite seems to me not surprising at all. I wouldn't want to go into details because I consider it inappropriate, even harmful, to preempt the negotiations themselves. As for what has been done following the negotiations, I think you can see for yourselves. Today, I believe, another exchange took place. Or was it yesterday? Today, I think, yes. And this is important.
Как дипломаты говорят, для субстантивного обсуждения сути проблемы. Мы договаривались таким образом, что продолжим дальнейшие контакты после завершения обменов.
The humanitarian component matters because it creates conditions for, as diplomats say, substantive discussion of the issue's essence. We agreed to continue further contacts after completing the exchanges and after the humanitarian action we proposed, namely the transfer of the bodies of our fallen servicemen. We have already handed over more than 6,000 bodies and are ready to transfer nearly 3,000 more, but it's up to the Ukrainian side to accept the bodies of their fallen soldiers. We agreed that after completing this stage, we would hold the third round of negotiations. Overall, we are ready for this. We need to agree on a place and time.
В целом мы к этому готовы. Нужно согласовать место, время. Рассчитываю, что президент Турецкой Республики, господин Эрдоган, остается на своих позициях по поддержке этого процесса.
I expect that the President of the Republic of Turkey, Mr. Erdogan, remains supportive of this process. We are very grateful to him for this. We are ready to hold such a meeting in Istanbul. As for when exactly, the leaders of the negotiating groups from both sides, who, by the way, are in constant operational contact with each other, are arranging it. They call each other regularly, and in my view, this is already a good thing. They are now coordinating the timing of the next meeting. As for what the subject will be, in my view, it should be the discussion of the memoranda from both sides. Yes, please.
Добрый день, Павел Зарубин, телеканал России. Вот у вас, ваших коллег, только что завершился саммит.
Good afternoon, Pavel Zarubin, Russia TV channel. Your and your colleagues' Eurasian Union Summit just concluded, while your former partners recently held a NATO summit, where a decision was made to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP. And in general, there's a barrage of voices from Europe calling for militarization. Such an aggressive stance from Europe. Is this something new in modern history? How do you assess what's happening?
Во-первых, так называемое западное сообщество, коллективный Запад.
Thank you. First, the so-called Western community, the collective West, if it can even be called collective today, turns everything upside down. Why? Because the increase in spending on military purposes and the militaristic frenzy we just mentioned are all based on one thesis: Russia's aggressiveness. But it's exactly the opposite. The starting point for all these discussions is 2022, the beginning of the special military operation. But no one says a word about how we, all of us, got to this special military operation. It all started with what? With the fact that we were deceived, bluntly, as people say, screwed over regarding NATO's non-expansion eastward. It's well known to the whole world that Russia was promised not 1 inch to the east. And then, one wave of expansion followed another. What did we keep saying?
Обманули грубо, как у нас в народе говорят, кинули просто по поводу нерасширения НАТО на восток. Ведь хорошо всему миру известно, что России было обещано ни одного дюйма на восток НАТО продвигаться не будет. И потом...
That the security of one country or group of countries cannot be ensured at the expense of another security. This is written in international documents that everyone agreed to. What happened in practice? One expansion after another, and we were constantly told, well, you shouldn't be afraid of this, it doesn't threaten you. When we responded that we consider it a threat, what did they say? Nothing at all. They just brushed us off with our opinion. No one took it into account or wanted to. But we know better what threatens us and what doesn't. It's our right to determine the degree of our security and the level of threats that may approach us from one side or another. But no one listened, and they kept moving in that direction. Isn't that aggressive behavior? It is aggressive behavior, which the West doesn't want to acknowledge. The same thing happened in our country when the collective West supported separatism in our country and such a tool of fighting Russia as terrorism.
Разве это не агрессивное поведение? Это и есть агрессивное поведение, на которое Запад не хочет обращать внимание. То же самое было в нашей стране, когда коллективный Запад поддерживал и сепаратизм в нашей стране. И такой инструмент...
No one wanted to pay attention to some EHL operating in Russia, explosions in Moscow, and so on, up until recently. No one wants to pay attention to it. Everything is fine as long as it's against Russia. What? We didn't see that. They see and understand everything perfectly well but talk about something else. They talk about our aggressiveness. Look at yourselves. There's a good proverb. They notice a speck in someone else's eye but don't want to see the log in their own. And what happens? Against the backdrop of this rhetoric about Russia's alleged aggressiveness, they start talking about the need to arm themselves.
И что происходит? Вот на фоне этой риторики об якобы мнимой агрессивности России начинают говорить о необходимости вооружаться. Ну, пускай вооружаются. Но давайте посмотрим на структуру этих расходов, на структуру этих вооружений. Первую часть я сказал. Мы считаем абсолютно необоснованной ссылку на агрессивность России. Не мы агрессивны, А Запад это так называемый коллективный, агрессивный. То же самое на Украине, кстати, происходило. А что же?
Well, let them arm themselves.